call this regular meeting of City Council for Monday, May 13th, 2024 to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory in the traditional home of the Cree, Danazé, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis people that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. Just before we get started, I just wanted to reach out to those families, those communities that are affected by the wildfires over the weekend, specifically in Fort Nelson and Fort Nelson First Nations. We're definitely, our prayers and thoughts are with all of them, to all the emergency ground crew that's on location and doing that. And also a thank you to all the volunteers, our own ESS locally, and the team we have here is just an unbelievable team that has come together to help. And for all the communities that are for going through everything right now. So we're definitely thinking about you, and a huge thank you to everybody that's helping. Our first order of business says 2 delegations. So 2.1, we have Fred Feddema and Kay Moody with the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare May 2024 as Hospice Palliative Care Month. So welcome, Fred and Kay. So you can come up here if you like. Okay, yeah, you can come up too, Kay. Welcome. So whereas Hospice Palliative Care Month is focused on raising awareness and recognizing that everyone should have access to quality end-of-life care. And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society is comprised of a large number of volunteers that provide direct and indirect hospice palliative care services to those individuals living within Dawson Creek. And whereas member organizations collectively reflect the entire hospice palliative care continuum from patients who are dying and still living within their homes to those who are dying in hospitals. And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society seeks to ensure that hospice palliative care for patients and their families is integrated and of high quality, and believes that this can be achieved through commitment, awareness, and partnerships. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Hospice Palliative Care Month in Dawson Creek. So, thank you. I don't can't say enough for what you do. I know both of you do a lot to help, but I know the community as a whole and the volunteer groups that help with palliative care. It is truly amazing for our region. So just a huge thank you to both of you. And I look forward to meeting the new director, and was sad to see Lori go, but I heard there's a replacement that is supposed to be just as amazing. So.
Lori hasn't left us, though. She's coming on the board.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. So is there anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
It certainly is an important aspect of our community that we have a group like ours that services those who are most need, and especially if we can serve them at home, that's even better. Most people would prefer to stay at home for as long as possible. And so we provide services that allow them to do that, whether it be companionship, our bed loan program, or our comfort care bags. And it gives us an opportunity to reach out to those who need us most. So, and we appreciate the city acknowledging May being Palliative Care Month. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
The only thing I would add is that in the last couple of years, we have also been able to supply machine washable sheepskins that are really helpful in comfort, and as well as they tend to prevent bed sores. So those are just some of the things, and there are others, but they aren't in my head right now.
Nice. Well, what an amazing thing, like when you get to that point in life, to be able to stay in your own home, right? Like it's just where you're comfortable. And you guys currently you just recently had your fundraiser. I didn't get a chance to attend, and I know last year was extremely successful. Was this year?
Yes. This year we managed to raise approximately $37,000.
Oh, wow.
So it went over very well. Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Well, good job. So, thank you. Thank you. We definitely appreciate everything you do to help. So, yeah. Perfect. We'll get a picture and present that to you. Perfect. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We shall see you again.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. See you. Thanks, Chairman. Great.
We got a small team on this side today. There's
Yeah.
a few away, so.
Less fighting today.
Yeah. On 2.2, should I just skip? Okay. I'm just going to vary the agenda. 2.2 isn't in attendance yet, so we'll go to 2.3. We have Stacey Weightman, General Manager of Operations, and Joe Hawkins, Transportation Manager. City of Dawson Creek in attendance regarding Proclamation, declare May 19th to the 25th, 2024 as Public Works Week. So. I guess I won't read out the blue side. So, is Joe here? Oh. Oh, hello.
Hi. We also have a couple public works staff. We have Don Carpenter, Johnny Pasek, Doug White.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Paul. I said there's a few more than Joe and Stacey, so welcome, everyone. All right. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Dawson Creek. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities essentials for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Dawson Creek to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and government agencies to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. So Public Works Week in Dawson Creek. So Dawson, congratulations. I wanted to touch a little bit. One, just thank you for what you guys do each and every day. I know sometimes, you don't get a lot of those thank yous, but we really do appreciate it. I wanted to share a story. I was, a couple weeks ago, I was doing an open door day at the seniors hall, and there was probably 80 seniors there. And 3 of them came up to me and specifically just to thank me for the services that you guys do. So whether it was water shut off or cleaning rocks off their lawns, but it blew me away because I know we offer those, but to hear it like firsthand from those individuals that it really impacts. And they talked about like how the one lady talked about how her husband has been gone for a bit, but she's able to like have that comfort in her home because she did mention you specifically, Joe, that you come there and you help her like just feel more comfortable. So it just like really warmed my heart, and just to see like that we actually like what you are doing is touching people's lives and helping. So yeah, so just a big thank you. And I know that's just one story and there's many other ones, but just a huge shout out to all of you and your team. So yeah, you're welcome. So I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add or anybody did.
No, I'm just really proud of the work that these folks do. I'm really proud to be part of this team.
Yeah, excellent. Perfect, awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, do you want to? Oh, I thought you were putting your...
No,
okay.
No, I was rubbing my eye. You put me on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. I like to do my best. So.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Get you right there in the middle.
All right.
You get in there, Dawn. Coming on this side.
Perfect. Well, thank you all, and you can pass it on to the team. We appreciate what you do. So, yeah, you bet. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Stacey.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Stacey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't.
Guys.
All right, our next order of business is 2.4. We have Jaron Neufeld, Chartered Professional Accountant, Sandra Rose Bone, Grindle, LLP in attendance regarding the review of the 2023 audited financial statement. So welcome, Jaron. Just got to push that button on there, Jaron, and then I can turn it on. Yeah, there you go.
Excellent.
The floor is all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Dober. So, thanks everyone for having me here again this year. Always appreciate the opportunity to come in and chat about our auditor's report. Before getting into it, I do want to extend a thanks to Melissa, Michelle, and the rest of the finance staff this year. This year we did have the new implementation of Public Sector Accounting Standard 3280, which is asset retirement obligation. So there was additional pressure on your team this year in order to allow us to move through the audit. So they handled it with great aplomb. So much appreciated. So on page 2 of the financial statements, you will find our independent auditor's report. It's addressed to the mayor and council of the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek. And it states that we've audited the financial statements of the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek, which comprise of the consolidated statement of annual financial position as at December 31st, 2023, and the consolidated statements of operations and changes in surplus and changes in net assets and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the company consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the corporation of the municipality of Dawson Creek as at December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the consolidated financial statements in accordance with public sector accounting standards and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. As auditors, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. As part of an audit that's been performed in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of a material misstatement of the consolidated financial statements, obtain an understanding of the internal controls relevant to the audit, evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used, conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis, and evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements. We also communicate with those charged with governance, i.e. yourselves, regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and any significant audit findings, including whether there were any significant deficiencies in internal controls that we identified during our audits. So, in other words, another clean audit report this year. So, any questions?
Perfect. Thanks, Jaron. Questions? No? I had a few just going through this, and maybe it might be some to Melissa as well, but just going through the statement, there was a couple things that it just brought up, so I just had some questions. So on page 15, I'm just going to pull it up here. Yeah, page 15, just the debt. So a couple questions with the debt servicing. So one, I guess, on the South Peace Multiplex. So do we know, is there any penalties if we were to pay that off early? Like I look at the interest and being up there, like is there on those types of loans?
Through your worship, so I don't know the answer to that, but I'd be able to get back to you.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question about that, I just thought I'd ask with Jaron here, but I know, we have a loan for the South Peace Multiplex. Those payments, we put them into, they get expensed to operating expense instead of capital because from what I understand, the reasoning of that is if it went to capital and we were to lose PRA funding, those debt services still need to take place. But from your professional experience, like when you're borrowing something against a capital project, should it go into capital or operating, or does that matter? Or it does matter, but I'm just wondering what, the reasoning, I guess.
So it's, I guess, a bit of a clarification there. The debt payments aren't necessarily an expense to the city. Like when you look on your statement of operations, they don't show up as an expense within that. It is budgeted through the cash flow. So it is coming out of your operating there, but it's kind of which pool of funding is it coming from? So if that answers the question, so. Yeah, it does. I mean, it clarifies. Kevin and I have talked quite a bit about it, and that's what it was set. So I just kind of wanted to. Yeah, it's kind of which pool of money you're pulling it out of, but at the end of the day, you still have that surplus per your statement of operations there that it's basically being pulled from. It's basically cutting it up after that as far as which funding source is paying for it. Where it comes out of. So okay. And then on page 5. I did have some other ones, but I can get into those later. But page 5, I think there was the government. Sorry, I'm just looking at which one I was. The government transfers, note 15. I just was having trouble finding that, but it's got a $4 million difference from actual to budget. What would be the main cause of that? Is that just assessment, or is that? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
So through your worship, that would definitely be for me to answer. But I believe it would be the Growing Communities Fund.
Oh, okay, getting the extra.
Because, but I would need to confirm that, but the amount lines up.
Oh, yeah, it is. Councillor Earl just pointed that out there. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. That was all the questions I had. So thank you very much, Jaron, for coming in. And it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. All right, our next order of business, are they on? Yeah, is 2.5. We have the Honourable Jim Karygiannis, Jeremy Beamer, and Faith Morales with GTA Strategies in attendance regarding introduction to autonomous aerial vehicles. So welcome to the three of you, and I'm under the understanding that Jim is the one that will be sharing, or Jeremy is sharing, okay? Welcome, Jeremy, and the floor is yours. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, folks, for giving us a chance to speak to you. My name is Jeremy Beamer. Jim Karygiannis and I are principals with GTA Strategies. We're here to present on behalf of our client, Aero Future Canada. I'm not sure if anyone can make screen sharing available. I've just got a PowerPoint to go through just to give you guys a little bit more reference to, as far as what we're working on. Excellent. I love this technology. It's great to be able to talk to you folks from Toronto.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we've been able to come so far so quickly. Speaking of advancements in technology, as I mentioned, we're here on behalf of Aero Future Canada. They are a Canadian organization, and they are the exclusive importers and distributors in Canada for a line of commercial and industrial drones that are currently being developed out of Guangzhou, China. Pictured here is one of their sort of flagship models. This is a passenger drone. This is a two-seater aircraft that can carry up to 220 kilograms. They have a variety of different designs, both manned and unmanned. primarily running off of electric motors, but there are also diesel and gasoline options. And these can be outfitted to serve a wide variety of different applications. My partner Jim and I were able to visit some of their facilities in China in March of this year. And this is just to give you kind of a sense of the scale of these drones. As I said, these are not hobby drones for the backyard. These are industrial grade devices. The one pictured here is a logistics model. This can actually carry up to 400 kilograms, so just shy of 1,000 pounds. And as I said, there's quite a list of things that these drones are capable of doing, and we don't want to keep you on the line all day. So we're just going to touch on a few of the applications that we think are going to be sort of most immediately impactful to the Canadian market. One of the first ones being forest firefighting. Now, being out in BC, you know a lot better than we do with the kind of year we had last year and in the last few years for wildfires. I know some are still considered ongoing from last year. They have been considered completely extinguished. You know, obviously the new season of them is starting up right now. So any kind of technology that we can bring to bear to assist with these fires in some way is something that we'd really like to be able to bring in. So these drones can put out up to 500 square meters of fire per payload. They carry a suite of 4 to 6 extinguisher bombs. The electric motor has a 20-minute runtime, less than 2 hours charging. Gasoline option, obviously, would just be a matter of refueling the tank, and it can be back up in the air. And they have a maximum flying speed of 130 kilometers an hour. So they're able to carry over a large amount of ground fairly quickly. Now, a 400 to 500 square meters fire, that's not a very big payload, certainly compared to a standard water bomber, a plane, or a helicopter. But because these can be very quickly deployed, and they can be left in kind of a central location, these can be used as essentially reconnaissance and first responder vehicles. If a fire tower sees smoke in the distance, these can be deployed with thermal imaging cameras mounted on them so that they can determine where the fire is, how big it is, so that normal ground and air crews can coordinate their efforts while at the same time using its payload to fight kind of the smaller secondary fires on its own, allowing water bombers to focus on kind of the larger, the more impactful fires. On the inverse side, there's an urban firefighting model. This is based off of the passenger drone, and it has a service ceiling about 50 meters higher than the CN Tower in Toronto. So there's no building in Canada that these can't reach. And when you're dealing with a high-rise fire, obviously the biggest effort is trying to actually reach them. When you get into 30, 40, 50 stories up, fire crews can't use elevators in that case. They have to use the stairs, and that can be a long hike, especially with the gear that they're carrying. Whereas these drones can pull right up to the window. They have a water cannon mounted underneath, and on the roof are 6 cartridges that act essentially as torpedoes. They can be deployed directly in through the window of a condo or an office tower, and they're filled with pressurized extinguishing materials that in a lot of cases can put these fires out in as little as a couple of minutes. As I mentioned earlier, there's a logistics drone. This can carry about 400 kilograms, and depending on the fuel source, if they run off of diesel or gasoline, they can have a max range of up to 700 kilometers. The main use that we see for these is supply routes in remote and northern communities, especially Indigenous and First Nations communities, where a lot of times they have issues getting things in, especially in the winter when roads close down, runways ice over. A lot of communities are located on islands where maybe there's too much ice for a boat to cross, but the ice isn't thick enough to support a truck or a sled. So a lot of these communities have a lot of trouble of getting supplies in. So this drone is an unmanned design, so all that payload capacity can go to things like clean food, clean drinking water, fresh food, medical supplies, anything that these areas need without a pilot on board to take up any of that payload. And because of its relatively small footprint, these can land in an area as small as a couple of parking spaces. So you can imagine one of these touching down in, say, a community center parking lot with 1,000 pounds worth of supplies. They offload it. It heads back to home base to refuel, resupply. It's flown by an operator on the ground using a computer, so there's a greatly reduced risk of pilot fatigue and exhaustion compared to a standard bush pilot. So as long as these are fueled up, these can be running all day long with very little impact from the ground. These can also be used in emergency response applications. When looking at hospitals and healthcare, they can be used in reduced capacity as air ambulances. Maybe not as much as an emergency transport, but certainly to move patients to certain hospitals if there's a procedure that has to be done at a certain location. The smaller unmanned designs can be used for things like organ and tissue transport. Obviously, when you're dealing with an organ transplant, the faster you can get the tissues where they need to be, the better, because there's less time for the tissues to start breaking down. So rather than a hospital having to wait on a helicopter and a flight crew to be ready, as long as they have one of these mounted on the roof, they simply load up the tissue, the pilot takes over, and it can be in the air in a couple of minutes. Because it can also be used for police services. We've actually had a meeting with Durham Regional Police just outside of Toronto. They've been working on a drone program for a while right now, and the goal of that program would actually be put one of these smaller drones on the roof of every police precinct. And the idea is that when a 911 call comes in, this drone acts as a first responder. It arrives on scene, determines what kind of escalation or de-escalation needs to be done, if they need to bring in additional units, additional fire or ambulance crews, just as a way to sort of triage these calls and make sure that they're using their resources most effectively. These can also be used for fire departments when dealing with something like a large warehouse or facility fire, for example. When those crews arrive on a scene like that, they have to do a 360-degree walk around of the entire site before they can start fighting the fire, because they need to check for risks of a wall or roof collapse. If there's anything like external fuel lines or pipelines, anything that could cause a secondary explosion or fire. But of course, if those hazards are present, that poses a real risk to the crews actually doing that inspection. But using one of these drones, they can be on site before the first trucks even arrive. They do that inspection in a fraction of the time, and they feed that information back to the crews so that when they arrive, they already have all the information they need and they can get right to work. And that's really just kind of scratching the surface of what these drones can do. They can be used for things like search and rescue operations in national provincial parks. If a camper or a hiker goes missing, they can be used to inspect hydro lines, pipelines, waterways. They can be used to for ground study, the land studies, for geological surveys or wildlife studies. They can even be used eventually for tourism, personal transport, things of that nature. But where we are right now with these drones, Transport Canada has set a capacity limit at 150 kilograms. Anything that exceeds that has to be assessed by Transport Canada on a case-by-case basis. So we've applied to Transport Canada for licensing to begin test flights. The first two drones are expected to be arriving in Canada in the second half of this year, and we're hoping to start test flights by the end of 2024. We are anticipating about 8 to 12 months worth of test flights, both with Transport Canada for them to do their assessment, but once they approve the technology, we want to set up a little bit of a road show with them. We want to take them to sites across Canada where we can test them in a variety of different conditions, different weather, different temperatures, weather conditions, different elevations, anything that could potentially affect how these drones perform, because they're being used for public service, for public safety. So we need to know that no matter where they're being used and what they're being used for, they're going to be operating at 100%. So with that being in mind, we're not selling these currently. This is not a sales call. We're really just notifying everybody to let them know about the potential of the program. We're trying to assess different sites across Canada. We've spoken to all three levels of government across Canada. We've spoken to police departments, fire departments, hospitals, First Nations communities. We've actually got an agreement with Big Island Lake Cree Nation in northern Saskatchewan. They're looking to help us do some winter testing. As you can imagine, if we can fly to Saskatchewan winter, it can do just about anything. But we're just letting people know about the program to determine if there's any sites that people want to offer for test flights, as well as potentially in a few years down the road, even assembly or manufacturing facilities. The companies that are developing these drones want to expand into the North American market. And obviously, we want to keep that kind of work on this side of the border. We've got a fantastic tech sector in Canada. We've got a lot of great schools that can really help push this technology forward on the hardware as well as the software end. So this is something that we really want to push forward. We've had about 150 meetings on this in the last year or so, which is why my voice is starting to go. But with that, again, everyone, I want to thank you all for taking the time to hear us. We will make this presentation available to you. If there's anyone else, any other departments that you think should see it, it's all public information. There's nothing confidential in here, so feel free to share it along. Just make sure that we're copied on the email. And if you have any questions either now or in the future, I'm here to try to answer them as best I can.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for taking the time and for presenting. So I'll open it up to see if council has any questions. Councillor Earl.
Well, thank you for the presentation. This clarifies a lot. We initially got a letter that was somewhat general, and I understand if you're reaching out to various levels of government all across the country, why that would be. But yeah, we were curious. Very exciting, I guess, with the technology, the many uses as a sparsely populated but geographically large region. Many of the uses you highlighted could be pertinent for us here. I guess, and it may be too early to suggest, like with respect to an operating model, as you say, okay, this is going to be remotely piloted. Is that piloting? I mean, I'm thinking as a municipality, is that a capacity that we are going to have to develop in-house, or that you envision us developing in-house as part of, Wave of the Future? Or is it something that is going to be, we're going to have a bank of drone operators with tasks like you would a call center almost?
Well, it would really come down to how many models a particular municipality or organization would be operating. The technology is there as far as the the flight controls. Obviously, with something like this, there's licensing involved. There's training involved in being able to operate these. As currently, they're regulated federally by Transport Canada as well as NAV Canada. But once we start getting into expanding this technology further, eventually I'm sure individual provinces are going to have their own bylaws, their own kind of their own rules and regulations as far as how these are operated. But as we move forward, we can start certainly making things available as far as what kind of training is necessary, licensing, insurance, and things of that nature, and those can all kind of be made available. And as I said, it really come down to each individual operator as far as how many drones they're going to have and what kind of flights operators they're going to have on hand.
Okay, and I guess one more. I'll try not to tax your voice too much. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm happy to talk about this.
Thinking of innovations in transportation technology, another technology that's currently top of mind for many people is electric vehicles. And one of the challenges we have here in the rural north with respect to an uptake in electric vehicles is the infrastructure, the support infrastructure around charging stations, around getting the vehicle serviced, maintained, that developing those special, that's a big hurdle for us. What kind of support infrastructure is going to be required in order to make vehicles like this typical in our region?
I wouldn't. I'm not the technological head of this, so I can't really give too much information as far as that. Obviously, as things like this expand, there's going to need to be a larger network for being able to provide power for all of these. As I mentioned, a lot of these designs also do have gasoline or even diesel engine alternatives can be made available, mainly because with the kind of land mass that we have, the kind of area that we're going to be covering with these. Even once you start getting into more northern remote communities, even if they have, say, a generator that would be able to charge an electric device, it's going to be running off of diesel most likely anyway. So being able to just kind of cut out that middleman and go directly to a gasoline or a diesel engine option would be available to anyone who's looking to purchase these. But again, as the technology advances, there will also be certainly going to be advancements in how much capacity a battery has, how long a life it has for the same size. That's something that obviously we're looking at expanding on as well, because the longer that these can run off of the same amount of charge and use the same amount of energy is something that we're obviously very interested in as well.
Perfect. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, Jeremy. Is that right? Yeah, I just only thank you for the presentation. It's kind of technological advancement. I visited your website, and of course, yeah, I saw some information there, but I'm really after the videos or the actual drone, for example, where it came from. So at least I know there's lots of speculations about drone, for example, but when I visited your news and videos here, there's nothing really to see. It says here it will be available once it's published. So at least actual presentation like the videos where it came from or how it's operated before we use it. So at least there's really an actual video that we or the people will know how to operate it or how to go around it or how's the firefighting being done or something. So at least it's more informative.
Absolutely. No, sorry, you are on Aero Future Canada's website?
Yeah. Area Future Canada. I went to
Okay.
some videos.
Okay, just I want to make sure if you're on theirs or ours, our organizations. I can certainly make some links available. So when I forward along the presentation deck, I can add a few links that you can see how these drones actually operate. Once we start getting closer to actually being able to test these in Canada, and we start reaching out to people to let them know, obviously more of that information can certainly be made available, and any kind of additional details that your council is looking for, we can certainly try to provide them. This call is really just kind of the first information session, just to introduce the project and let people know about it and see kind of what kind of interest there is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just saying, because of course I'm expecting that once it's presented, it's like already like all in order already, like the informations are there. But anyways, so we're looking forward for the information.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Apollonio. I know there's a lot of testing in this. I've seen some down in the U.S. They're already testing in some states and stuff. And I mean, good to see that it's going to hit Canada and test as well. Is there an ask to, I know in the original letter to the city, I think there was an ask to us. So is there something you're looking for us like to, I guess, from what I'm understanding from the presentation is just if we're interested in being a potential place to test them, is that what the ask is kind of?
Yes, at this point, yeah. It's still very early stages, and we don't want to try to kind of build things up now until we're ready. Like we want to make sure that when these start rolling out, that everything is running at 110%. Like I said, we've talked to various municipalities. There's been a lot of interest, especially out into the West End, BC and Alberta, in hosting testing sites as well as potentially manufacturing or assembly sites, and even just maintenance and repair facilities. Because as these operate, they're obviously going to need there's going to need to be upkeep. So having some locations across Canada where these can be brought in order to be serviced is something that we're looking at. But for the time being, like for today, it's really just a hi, how are you kind of meeting, just to say this is what we're bringing over. These are some of the things that they can do. And once we start getting into once they're actually here and we're starting to schedule flights, we'd obviously be reaching back into all the people that we've spoken to so far, just to say this is the status update, this is where we are. If this is something that you're still interested in, like after that initial meeting, we'd love to talk to it in a little bit more detail.
Okay. No, that sounds great. Obviously, just from the presentation, there's lots of potential, and I can definitely see that. So we appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward as you progress to hear more about it. So
You as well. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you. All right, our next order of business is 2024 strategic priorities, 3.1, 2024 strategic priorities, 3.2, strategic priority action plan, staff update. We had one in February and April. I don't know if Kevin, if you had anything to add? No? Okay. Anybody on this side have anything? No? All right. Next late item, 4.1, we have a letter from Kira Kirka, Clinical Director, Haven Family Services, received on May 10th, 2024, regarding a request for letter of support, expression of interest for Planet Youth Program for consideration. So we just need a motion to accept as a late item. Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor Earl. I will call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, 5 new councillor business. So 5.1, we have the letter from Kira Kirka, Clinical Director, Haven Family Services, received on May 10th, 2024, regarding a request for letter of support, reason expression of interest for Planet Youth Program. Councillor Sudnick?
Thank you, Worship. I'll move we offer our letter of support to Haven Family Services.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, minutes of regular meeting of council with committee of the whole for April 29th, 2024 for adoption. Councillor Apollonio, second Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. Perfect. Any business arising? Sorry, just to jump back, was there any other new councillor business? No? Oh, sorry to jump around there. I forgot to ask that. So go ahead, Councillor Apollonio.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a big thanks for the city for coming to our just concluded weekend Filipino Community Sports Olympics. It was well attended. And of course, thank you very much from the city, from the council, mayor, and of course, Kevin, for attending and for gracing the affair. We are so happy for your presence. Everybody's happy and all are energized. Thank you.
It was an amazing opening ceremony, so thank you. Anything else? No? Sorry for jumping around there. Next order of business, 8 correspondence. We have 8.1 letter from Judy Eagles, Principal, Dawson Creek Secondary School, received on March 9th, 2024. Request to host the 2024 graduation ceremony, dry grad, and prom in the Ovintiv Center. So, Kevin, I believe annually they submit this, and it's just about waiving the fee. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Earl?
I'll move we grant their request.
I have a second. Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.2, we have a letter from Stuart Forrest, Executive Director, Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce, received on April 30th, 2024, regarding a request for sponsorship, big ball, small ball tournament. I do see on here there's all the different levels. There's also some door prizes sponsors as well. So I don't know if somebody would want to. Kevin, do you have what our grant dollar value is at? I know it's the last council meeting. There was a couple in there.
Just, Melissa's just pulling that up. So just give me 1 second.
Okay.
So through your worship, we've spent just over $7,700 to date with just under $4,800 remaining.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Earl?
I'll move that the city purchase a silver sponsor I was going to say silver sponsor level, but it includes one complimentary entry that I don't imagine we're going to make use of. So I don't know if that's the best fit. So I will rescind my move for the moment if somebody wants to think of something else.
Okay. I can make a motion that we provide sponsorship at the level of bronze sponsor or a door prize of equivalent value in services from the city, whatever would be their request. I have a second. Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? No. All right, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next order of business 8.3, we have email from Pauline Laidman, Administrative Assistant for the Village of Pouce-Coupe, received on April 25th, 2024, regarding an invitation to enter a float in the Canada Day Parade. I did speak with, last year we attended this. There was a few of us. Councillor McDonald's lovely wife donated her vehicle for us to use, and I did speak with her, and she's willing to do that again. So I'd be willing to make a motion saying that we respond that we would like to enter a float in the Pouce Parade. Second, Councillor Earl. Any discussion? I don't know, does the city team need any clarification on that? I know that they've already got planning for stuff to hand out. Is there anything else you would need?
Through your worship, no, I don't think so. I'm assuming you're wanting the city float, whatever we have for that to be entered into it. It's or was it last year just yourself going through handing out?
Yeah, it was just our.
And that's what you'd like to do again? Oh,
yeah, I
just
think
to be
so.
clear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we had a vehicle and we went,
Sure.
and then city staff just looked after getting together some stuff for us to hand out. So
Okay.
yeah, which I
That'll
think
be
we have
fine
budgeted. So okay. All right. Any other discussion? No. I guess in the letter, do we need to state who's going? I guess we can figure that out. Yeah. Okay. I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, 9 reports. We have 9.1 report number 24-050 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2023 audited financial statement. Councillor Earl.
I'll move the recommendation that report number 24-050 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2023 audited financial statements be received. Further, that the 2023 audited financial statements be accepted as presented.
A second, Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion?
Other than to say congratulations to staff for making it through.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Earl. I wanted to.
Audits are a lot of work. I know.
Yeah.
I work at a bank.
Yeah.
It's good work.
Yeah. I wanted to say the same, just a thank you to yourself, Melissa, and your team. It's and congratulations. So thank you. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next, 9.2, we have report number 24-051 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding actual to budget variance report for period ending March 31st, 2024. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recommend that report number 24-051 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding actual to budget variance report for period ending March 31, 2024 be received for information.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. I know it is for information. Is there any comments or anything on it? No. All right. I will call this motion to vote. Thank you again for all the information on there as well too, Melissa. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, we have 9.3, report number 24-061 from the Capital Project Manager regarding ITT 2024-17 Capital Roadworks, 112th Avenue from 7th Street to 8th Street, reconstruction and water extension. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move a recommendation, report number 24-061 from the Capital Projects Manager regarding invitation to tender 2024-17 Capital Roadworks, 112th Ave, 7th Street to 8th Street, reconstruction and water extension be received. Further, that council award the invitation to tender 24-17 Capital Roadworks, 112th Ave, 7th Street to 8th Street, reconstruction and water extension to Jacobson Contracting Limited for the tendered price of $1,217,685.85 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. So I have a second. Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? Maybe just had one question. I think this is maybe the third or fourth one that we've seen that's come under budget. Is that, I know that we were, when we did up the budget, we were predicting inflation and stuff. So is that where most of that is, or are some of the prices coming down from where we've seen?
So, through Your Worship, Devin, do you have anything you can add to that? My first inkling is that I don't think prices are coming down. I think I think staff is doing a good job of anticipating those increases, and we work off previous years and add certain inflationary costs to that to come up with, the subsequent year's budget. But do you have anything else, Tim?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No more. Any more discussion? No. I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.4, report number 24-062 from the Parks, Arena, and Aquatics Manager regarding RFQ 2024-15 heating and cooling unit replacement and improvements, the Calvin Crook Center. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation that report number 24-062 from the Parks, Arenas, and Aquatics Manager regarding RFQ 2024-15 heating and cooling unit replacement improvements, Calvin Crook Center, be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2024-15 heating and cooling unit replacement improvements, Calvin Crook Center, to Enersolve Design and Build Limited for $533,700 plus applicable taxes. Further, that the total project budget be increased to $680,000, reallocating $322,500 from the existing 2024 capital projects budget.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Discussion, did you want to go?
I mean, but nothing we're not, I guess, familiar with and is detailed in the report. Obviously, once we got into it, some unpleasant surprises for members of the public who may be wondering why the budget is being adjusted upward. It's not something anybody's ever happy to do, but these are public assets, and when we discover these unpleasantries, we do have a responsibility to maintain them. So, yeah, that's what's driving this, and yeah. But thank you to staff for your work in getting this together, and hopefully this is the last unpleasant surprise we have for some time.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Well said. I had one just on this. I know obviously there's a little bit of a history on this project, and some things we found out when we were digging through it, or when the team was digging through it. But is this like do we believe this is a permanent fix to all these? Like, obviously you can't. We don't have a magic ball, but it's not a Band-Aid, right? Like, this will actually is doing everything in there and eliminating it, or is this something where it's just doing part of it and there could be more to come?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. So from the investigative work, this should take care of the from the heating and cooling and some of the fan coils. The portions of them have failed, so those are all being replaced and maintained. So I anticipate that going forward from this, that we shouldn't have any problems. I think that as part of this, as well as we have to recommission certain aspects of the building because it's new components and new aspects. So I think we'll learn more when we do some of that commissioning as well. There's allowance within this budget to have some unforeseen things that may come up from that commissioning to take care of the those issues as well.
Okay. And I know, like, well, from what I understand from you, that's a pretty advanced system there. Is this this company that's being awarded, is it, they're familiar with it, like they've seen it? And
Yes, the company that's being awarded here is very familiar with the products and the installation of this system. So I feel confident in their ability to do this. Also, because they are a supplier or a preferred vendor with these products, that it increases our warranty on these items as well. If on our side we continue to do the proper items and aspects to ensure that the maintenance there, but it does extend our warranties as well.
that's good to know.
So that is a good news story.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no real other option, right? Like the system's
Unfortunately,
just
there
failing.
is no other option for it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Earl?
Just, I guess, while we're on the subject, and I don't know if this is best answered by Ryan or Devin or who, but as these folks are on site doing this installation, I understand it's not necessarily their job, but is there an opportunity at that point for our staff to be on hand to observe and learn so that they get some hands-on technical experience before they're expected to maintain?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Through your worship, Council Earl, yes, so as part of the proposal and stuff is to provide further training on these units and to go through those steps as well. So yes, there'll be opportunities for our staff to engage in those opportunities.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Earl. All right, any other discussion? All right, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. I'm just going to call a break for 5 minutes or so. The council for Monday, May 13th, back to order. I'm just going to go back on the agenda to 2.2. Unfortunately, the folks from Nowkin were unable to attend this morning, but I still wanted to do the proclamation to declare May 16th, 2024 as Moose Hide Campaign Day. So I will read out the proclamation. So whereas the Moose Hide Campaign is an Indigenous-led grassroots movement of men, boys, and all Canadians standing up to end violence against women, children, and all those along the gender continuum. And whereas the Moose Hide Campaign was founded along the Highway of Tears in British Columbia in response to the injustices and violence faced by many women and children in Canada, particularly those who are Indigenous. And whereas intimate partner violence, IPV, is at epidemic proportions across Canada, with more than 4 in 10 women having experienced it in their lifetime, and this reality is worse for Indigenous women, who are twice as likely to experience violence from their current or former partners. And whereas the Moose Hide Campaign has distributed over 5 million moose hide pins that each spark 5 conversations about issues of violence against women, children, and all those along the gender continuum. And whereas wearing the moose hide pin demonstrates a commitment to honor, respect, and protect the women and children in your life and gender-based violence, and take meaningful actions towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. And whereas participation in the Moose Hide Campaign is a concrete action for all citizens to address the legacies of colonization, residential schools, and the reality of more than 1,200 missing or murdered women in Canada. And whereas engagement with the Moose Hide Campaign aligns with the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action, and the calls for justice of the National Inquiry on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 16th, 2024 as Moose Hide Campaign Day in Dawson Creek. So I still wanted to do this, such an important campaign, and it's really about violence against all women and children, and it's just the numbers are really astonishing, and this proclamation lays a lot of the information out, but it shows how big this is in Canada, because it was only started in 2011, which is 13 years ago, by I believe it was Paul and Raven who were the two that started it, but they had the idea and they were cutting these moose hides at their table and giving little write-ups with it. And last year in 2013, it was 4 million were given out. This year it's, what did it say in here, 5 million. But they say it's adding about 1 million a year, so it has been. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these campaigns led, but this is a very important one, and it's gaining a lot of momentum. So yeah, so thank you. All right, so our next order of business is back to 9.5, report number 24-063 from the Parks, Arenas, and Aquatics Manager regarding lease space agreements at Memorial and Arenas. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move recommendation that report number 24-063 from the Parks, Arenas, and Aquatics Manager regarding leased space agreements that Memorial and Arenas be received. Further, the council authorize staff to enter into lease agreements for the purpose of renting space at the Memorial and Arenas for a 3-year term from July 1st, 2024 till June 30th, 2027, with the option to renew for a further 2-year term to the following arena user groups: Blazers Adult Hockey Group, Dawson Creek Canucks Alumni Association, Dawson Creek Kodiaks Hockey Club, Dawson Creek Minor Hockey Association, Dawson Creek Old Timers Hockey Club, Dawson Creek Senior Canucks Hockey Association, Dawson Creek Speed Skating Club, KFC Old Posts, and Mile Zero Figure Skating Club.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? No? I'll call that motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. All right, next order of business is 10 bylaws. We have 10.1 tax rates bylaw number 4581, 2024 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second. Councillor Apollonio. I will call that to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. 10.2, we have report number 24-059 from the city planner regarding zoning bylaw number 4582, 2024 for consideration of first and second readings. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 24-059 from the city planner regarding zoning bylaw number 4582, 2024 be received. Further, that zoning bylaw number 4582, 2024 be given first and second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. I have a second. Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's. We'll do that again. Oh, Councillor Earl, sorry about that. Vote is closed. Now it's carried with Councillor Earl's vote in there. All right, next is 11 mayor's business, 11.1 mayor's updates. Couple things. The Regional District Council had a meeting with the Council of Soto First Nations. So we had Chief Paquette and Councillor Donovan Cameron there. It was really just an initial council-to-council meeting, just a lot of open dialogue, just, building that relationship. They have a new council that was formed last summer, so it was great to meet Councillor Donovan Cameron and just hear a lot about what's going on at Soto. They do have their cultural center. I can't remember if it's a cultural center is opening this summer. The dates were pushed back a little bit. And then they also have a couple of fundraising golf tournaments that they're going to be hosting in the Dawson Creek Golf and Country Club in August. So yeah, so it was nice to see that. So that hospital visit, I was at the hospital a few weeks ago, just doing a little visit, just really to thank the hospital team for all they do in our community. So this one I spent actually in the basement floor, so with pharmacy and all. Maintenance and there was lots. So just got a tour of it, got to meet everybody, and really just a thank you from the city for what they do every day, and also in the lab as well. So I did another one previously with the top 2 floors, so it was just kind of coming to finish it. And really, it was good just to visit with them all, lots of familiar faces, but just to show that we appreciate what they do each and every day. So they were thankful. Youth roundtable. We had a youth roundtable a couple weeks ago. We do there's 4 different roundtables, but this youth one has been very great. So it's with youth leaders in the community. Melissa with communications, she put out a youth survey actually. So this was kind of going over the results of that, and there was a lot of educational things in there. It was very very powerful and on what the youth is looking for. So that was great, and it was well attended. Lots of those youth leaders continue to really just amaze me on all the services and what they offer to strengthen our youth in the community. Regional recreation funding information meeting. So Kevin and myself had a meeting with the CAO from a regional district, Sean, just more to educate ourselves, to learn a little bit more about the piece, recreational funding and how it works. And really, it's there's some complicated parts of it. So it's really just an understanding about it. We're kind of revisiting it and how it works within the community, and looking at different options or opportunities within it. Since then, I've also had a meeting with Director Hebert. So we're just kind of having just some open dialogue on ways that it can go. So I'll keep you updated as it goes. And that's all I had for updates now. I don't know if there's any questions. Councillor Earl? Let me know. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just with respect to, we had some exchanges over the weekend as the situation in Fort Nelson was developing, and the city brought in some evacuees, and we gave an informal approval to staff to provide free swim to those evacuees, but I think someone mentioned us having to ratify it at a meeting. Is that something we would do, or it's still required?
I will ask Kevin. I don't know if...
Yeah, so through your worship, I was going to touch on that in my update. But Tab and I chatted about that this morning. So Tab had crafted a resolution that we could, or a motion, I guess, that we could utilize. Sorry? Yeah. So basically, what we crafted is that council authorized the chief administrative officer on behalf of the city to utilize available grant funds for free swim passes to the Fort Nelson evacuees affected by the Parker Lake wildfire. Further, that the council receive regular updates on the grant fund balance during the chief administrative updates in council meetings. So the reason we crafted it like that is because we just don't know if it's going to be a couple of days or it could be a week or two. So what we were thinking is that if you're in favor of a motion such as this, that I could just report back at the next meeting a bit of an update, whether it's still ongoing, whether we need to change course, what that looks like. And I don't know what we've had for uptake yet. Because it's been early, but if they're here for a while, I suspect we will see some uptake.
Okay. Do you want to make that motion? You can say, Councillor Earl.
So moved. Thank you.
Second, Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? No. I'll call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Any questions on mayor's updates? No? Right. Next order of business is 12, Chief Administrative Officer operational updates, which you started, Kevin, but I'll hand it back over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So through your worship, a couple of updates. First, just on our river and water. We've got river flows are holding, but they are low. Actually, they're historically low. Staff was just letting me know this morning that I think we're at the the flows of the Kiskadon are in the 5th percentile of what's normal. So they are historically low. Saying that, right now they're just hanging in at the top of the weir. It's allowing us to pump, and we're able to continue to replenish our reservoirs. South Dawson Reservoir is at about 90%, which is great. We'd like to get it to about 95, so we probably got a few more weeks to get there. But so good news on that front. The other positive news is that the forecast does show rain. I believe it's on Thursday, 15 mils. It also shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week rain. So although that's a week away and that could change, I'm trying to be optimistic and positive. And so we're hoping that we do see some moisture. So things are hanging in there, and we're making some ground. The other thing to touch on was the ESS activation, which occurred Friday evening. Staff received a call about 6:30-ish that Fort Nelson was being evacuated and that we needed to stand up and get organized. Thankfully, most of us were together because we just finished a little staff appreciation event, and we were at Sedaten Hall already, just cleaning up from the kids that were there playing games and whatnot. So we switched gears and set up the space to receive evacuees, and so staff and volunteers continue to be there. They worked some very, very long hours. A few staff went up Friday evening to Fort St. John to assist because they were taking the first wave and the brunt of it. Our staff that did go up to Fort St. John, I think they got home about 5 in the morning, and then we're back at our ESS in the morning to open it up. So we've got approximately 400 evacuees in town. Yesterday was a busy day. We expect today to be not too bad, but tomorrow will be an exceptionally busy day because it's a renewal day. Just the way the system works, every 72 hours, evacuees need to renew. So there'll be a fair amount of work for the group to renew everybody, identify available hotel rooms, and go through the whole process again. So, that's what we do. And one great story out of that is that we actually have a few Fort Nelson residents that are volunteering in the ESS that have experience in that work, and they offered to help out. So that was great. And we've got a few other volunteers, such as a couple from the fire chief and a fireman from Puskupi, who have stepped up and have in the past and continue to do so, and they've been great as well. So to everybody, staff, volunteers, everybody involved, it's really appreciated, and I'm very thankful. So, any questions?
Councillor Earl. Thank you, Your Worship, through you to staff. Kevin, following these ESS activations, what opportunity, when we're coordinating with the provincial government, what opportunity is there for the volunteers and the staff after the fact to debrief and provide feedback on what's required, how things went? And I'm asking simply because coming off a very busy wildfire year last year, I know we as councillors, and the sentiment was echoed all across BC when we went to UBCM, there was a multitude of feedback provided to the provincial government with respect to how they could better coordinate with us, how they could better manage these situations. And I'm thinking, unfortunately, it looks like for the time being, this is potentially an annual thing where we may have to get used to. And just insofar as tracking progress, and as we advocate, as we push back against areas where they're not getting the attention they need or we're not seeing the resources required, are we touching base with these returning professionals and volunteers to say, have they improved compared to the last time you had to do this? Because and thinking when you said the 72-hour intake renewal, that is an entirely paper process for the most part, right? They're filling out the triplicate forms that you tear away, and it's incredibly labor intensive. and at a time when, you know, is this the best use of our resources if people can't, you know, download an app and do it through a BC service app, you know, renew, like you would an EI application every 2 weeks or you know, that kind of stuff. I think, yeah, are they being debriefed? Are we making progress on this? I think is something, and how can we as a municipality facilitate that or push back on that?
Yeah.
That's something I think it'd be useful for us to know.
For sure, and I can speak to a couple things, and if anybody, Ryan or anybody, Devin, want to jump in on it to add to it. So internally, I can definitely say our group has learned a lot through the various activations. You know, starting with Tumbler Ridge last year, and then throughout the year last year, and then this year. We talked about it over the weekend. We see some immense efficiencies and improvements, just lessons learned. We've also gone to the digital registration form, where last year we were into the paper forms. We're now into the digital forms that the province offers. So that certainly helps. It still takes time, but not as much time. So that's better. The renewals, I think there is some stuff that can be done digitally. And again, I look to these guys, they probably know more about it. But my thoughts over the weekend too is yeah, we definitely need to have those discussions with the provincial government, because it's not sustainable for our community, or really, I can't believe many communities, to have to do this on a prolonged basis. We're all willing to obviously step up when needed and do that, and to help your neighbors. But because of, like you say, the changing climate, and what we're seeing is more of this, it's problematic. There's an immense demand on resources for it, not only for the event, but then when everybody goes home, we still have, you know, a week, 2 weeks of paperwork and cleanup that we need to do that. And then we start to hear stories about suppliers that haven't been paid from last May from the province, right? And so there's some gaps that need to be addressed. And I know our staff communicate with EMBC and Pre-Auc and push that, you know, information up. But I think there is value in, you know, whether that's at UBCM, having that conversation as one of our meetings. I just think if this is the way it's going to be moving forward, we need to advocate for efficiencies. And because really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the evacuees are the ones that are, you know, potentially, you know, hurt by the process if it's not as efficient or as good as it could be. So I don't know if you guys have anything you need to add to that. But
yeah, I mean, we don't want to be burning people out unnecessarily here. But I mean, I know in the meetings we sometimes get with ministers when we go to UBCM, concrete real world examples of areas where it's falling short are always more powerful to them than just speaking in generalities.
And I think you know, that's a good point. So we will have a debrief when this event is done.
Okay.
And I think any of those takeaways that we can then take forward to the province of, hey, this is where we need some support, where we need some help, so we can do a better job. Because we're just in the middle, right? It's the province to us, to really the evacuees. And often when there is a hiccup or a problem, we're just taking the information from those folks and saying, well, that's a provincial thing, but we'll push it that way. And nobody really wants to hear that it's that. They want solutions, right? So we need to have that ability. But I will say, you know, I think things are better, but I still think they have a ways to go.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Something we can definitely add to our minister list this year for UBCM, so I'll make sure that's on there. I also spoke with MLA Bernier this morning about similar things, so. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Kevin. Next order of business, diary, if there's anything in the diary. 14 consent calendar. Anybody want to lift anything? No? All right, a motion to accept the consent calendar. Councillor Earl, second Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. 15 media questions, no media. 16, there's no closed. 17, motion to adjourn. Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor Earl. I will call that vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Making this do analog.
Thank you.